10 perennials you can sow in early October. Easy seeds for next year's blooms. Hello friends and welcome back to Earthly Delights. If you've landed here today, chances are you love being surrounded by plants. Whether it's tending a balcony full of pots, carving out space in a small backyard, or dreaming of how to turn a bare patch of soil into a green sanctuary. Many of you watching are busy people who crave practical gardening tips that actually work in real life. You may not have acres of land, but you do have a passion for color, for beauty, and for that quiet satisfaction that comes when you watch something you planted come alive. Now here's the truth. Early October often feels like the end of the gardening year. The air turns crisp, leaves scatter across the lawn, and many gardeners pack away their tools. But what if I told you that this season holds one of the best-kept secrets in gardening? Right now, the soil still carries warmth. The nights bring just enough coolness, and nature is quietly preparing for a long winter rest. It's the perfect recipe for sowing perennial seeds that will surprise you with strong, vibrant growth next spring. So in today's video, we'll uncover 10 perennials you can sow in early October. Easy, reliable choices that set you up for a garden bursting with blooms next year. If you're ready to garden smarter, not harder, you're in the right place. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Earthly Delights and tap the bell so you'll never miss a guide that helps your plants thrive and your garden dreams grow. Part 1, preparing the ground for October's gift. Before we jump into the specific flowers, let's pause for a moment and imagine what it really means to sow perennials in early October. Think of it as setting the stage for a performance you won't see until months from now. Right now, your garden is quieting down, the air is cooler, and your soil still holds the warmth of summer. That combination is nature's invitation, a window of time when seeds can settle into the earth, rest, and quietly prepare for their grand entrance in spring. This is where experienced gardeners know a little preparation makes all the difference. Loosen the soil gently, remove the weeds that could steal energy from your seedlings, and if your soil feels heavy, lighten it with compost or grit so water drains instead of sitting stagnant. Many of you watching might be container gardeners working on patios, balconies, or even just a small corner by your doorstep. The same principle applies. Choose a deep pot, fill it with a well-drained mix, and give your seeds a home where their roots can stretch. Label where you sow, because by the time snow melts, it's easy to forget. Cover seeds lightly with soil or a sprinkling of mulch, just enough to protect them without blocking the chill they need. And most importantly, let nature do her work. This step is like writing a letter to your future self. You won't see the results now, but come spring, your garden will answer back with color and life. This preparation is the gentle bridge that carries us into the heart of today's list, the 10 perennials that thrive when sown in early October. Part 2, the 10 perennials to sow in early October. Now that the ground is ready, it's time to turn our attention to the real stars of the show, the perennials themselves. Each of these plants has its own personality, its own rhythm, and a special way of rewarding you for the patience you invest today. From bold splashes of summer color to delicate spring blossoms, these 10 choices are both beginner-friendly and reliable. Let's begin our journey into the flowers that make October sowing truly magical. 1. Coneflower, the reliable performer. Let's begin with a favorite many gardeners swear by, the coneflower. Known for its strong daisy-like petals and bold cone-shaped center, this perennial is more than just a splash of beauty. It's a survivor. When you sow coneflower seeds in early October, you're giving them exactly what they crave, a natural period of cold stratification. The chill of autumn and winter works as a gentle alarm clock, preparing the seeds to wake up strong in spring. By the time the days grow longer, you'll see sturdy seedlings ready to take off. For those of you gardening in small city yards, suburban plots, or even containers on a sunny balcony, coneflowers are wonderfully adaptable. They thrive in full sun, need only moderately fertile soil, and once established, they become drought tolerant. Perfect if your schedule keeps you busy. The blooms come in shades from deep purples to bright pinks and even warm yellows, making them versatile companions in borders, meadows, or pollinator gardens. Bees, butterflies, and even goldfinches can't resist their charm. turning your planting into a living ecosystem. Sowing them is as easy as scattering the seeds on loosened soil and covering lightly. Keep the area moist until seedlings emerge. Then step back and let nature do the rest. Year after year, coneflowers return tougher and more resilient, a testament to the simple act of trusting the season's rhythm. By planting now, you're investing in a perennial that asks for little but gives endlessly in return. 2. Black-eyed Susan, the Golden Glow. Next on our list is the cheerful and resilient black-eyed Susan, a flower that feels like sunshine captured in petals. With its golden yellow rays surrounding a dark chocolate center, this perennial lights up borders, pathways, and meadows with effortless charm. When you sow its seeds in early October, you're aligning perfectly with nature's cycle. The cooling soil and approaching winter provide the cold stratification these seeds need, ensuring they sprout vigorously when spring warmth returns. For many of you balancing small garden beds, raised planters, or even community plots, black-eyed Susans are a gift. They don't demand constant care. They adapt easily to various soils, and once established, they're both drought-tolerant and deer-resistant. That makes them a dependable choice for gardeners who love beauty but don't always have endless hours to devote. Their long blooming season, stretching from midsummer into fall, means months of color when other plants begin to fade. Scatter the seeds over well-drained soil in a sunny spot, cover lightly, and water gently. Before long, they'll weave themselves into your garden's fabric, standing tall and steady. As the seasons turn, their seed heads invite goldfinches and other birds, bringing life to your outdoor space even after the flowers fade. Growing black-eyed Susans isn't just about adding color, it's about creating a perennial rhythm that connects you to the cycles of nature while gifting your garden a glow that feels like home. 3. Blanket flower, the fiery carpet. Now let's move to a perennial that brings pure energy into any garden, the blanket flower, also known as Gaillardia. If you've ever wanted your garden to feel like it's glowing from within, this is the plant for you. Its petals often look hand-painted with fiery gradients of red, orange, and golden yellow, creating blooms that resemble tiny sunsets scattered across your beds. Sowing Gaillardia seeds in early October sets the stage for a spectacular display the following summer, as they benefit from the winter's rest and wake up vigorous when the warmth returns. For those of you managing compact urban gardens, sunny patios, or rockeries, the blanket flower is a low-maintenance gem. It thrives in lean, well-drained soil, and it laughs at heat and drought once its roots are established. That means less watering, less fussing, and more time simply enjoying its endless blossoms. Even in poor soil, Gaillardia keeps blooming, rewarding you with a bold carpet of color that lasts well into fall when many other flowers have faded. To sow, simply scatter the seeds where you want them to grow, cover lightly with soil, and water gently. As the seedlings emerge, thin them out to give each plant breathing space. By midsummer, you'll have pollinators flocking to your garden, bees, butterflies, and more drawn to the fiery blossoms. The blanket flower isn't just a perennial, it's a celebration of resilience, turning your October sowing into months of joy and life next year. Columbine, the whimsical charmer. Our next perennial feels like something out of a fairy tale, the delicate and graceful columbine. With its nodding bell-shaped flowers often tipped with elegant spurs, columbine adds an air of whimsy to any garden corner. Colors range from deep purples and blues to reds, pinks, and pure white, making each bloom look like a tiny lantern glowing in spring. When you sow columbine seeds in early October, you're giving them the cold period they need to germinate well. Nature takes care of the stratification, and by spring the seedlings emerge ready to enchant. For viewers who garden in shaded courtyards, woodland edges, or balconies that don't get full sun all day, columbine is a perfect match. Its fern-like foliage adds texture even when the blooms have passed, and once established, it often self-seeds, creating natural drifts of flowers that seem to appear as if by magic year after year. This makes it an excellent choice for gardeners who love surprises and want their spaces to feel alive without constant replanting. Sowing columbine is as simple as sprinkling the seeds in moist, well-drained soil, ideally in dappled shade. Press them gently into the surface, since they need some light to germinate. Keep the area moist and let patience do the rest. By the time spring arrives, hummingbirds and pollinators will find your columbine irresistible, transforming your garden into a lively, colorful haven. For busy gardeners, this plant is a reminder that sometimes the most enchanting beauty comes from the simplest beginnings. 5. Lupin, the towering showstopper. Now let's turn to a perennial that demands attention wherever it grows, the lupine. Famous for its tall, spiky flower clusters that rise like colorful towers, lupine brings instant drama and structure to a garden. The blooms come in rich shades of blue, purple, pink, and white, often blending into eye-catching two-tone displays. By sowing lupine seeds in early October, you allow the cool months to naturally break their dormancy, setting them up for stronger germination once spring warmth returns. For those of you cultivating cottage-style gardens, meadow-inspired borders, or even raised beds in suburban spaces, lupines are a perfect fit. Their palmate leaves add unique texture, creating interest even before the dramatic flower spikes appear. They don't like being moved once they've settled, which makes direct sowing in October the best approach. Plant them in full sun to partial shade, in soil that drains well but isn't overly rich. Too much fertility can reduce their bloom power. Once lupines establish, they often self-seed, spreading their charm naturally through your garden without demanding much from you. Imagine stepping outside in late spring to find those towering spires alive with bees and butterflies. It's a living piece of art that also nourishes the ecosystem. For busy gardeners, lupines are both a statement piece and a low-maintenance ally. Sowing them now ensures your garden next year has a vertical accent that feels bold, beautiful, and unmistakably alive. 6. Delphinium, the elegant spire. If you're dreaming of elegance and height in your garden, the delphinium is the perennial that delivers. With tall, graceful spires covered in densely packed blooms, it creates a display that feels almost regal. The colors are breathtaking, shades of deep indigo, sky blue, violet, lavender, pink, and even pure white. When you sow delphinium seeds in early October, you're giving them exactly what they crave. A cool resting period through winter that primes them for strong germination in spring. By the time summer arrives, their towers of flowers will make your garden look like a painter's canvas brought to life. For gardeners managing suburban borders, large pots on patios, or even narrow strips along fences, delphiniums bring vertical drama without requiring a huge footprint. They prefer cooler climates and thrive best in well-drained soil enriched with organic matter. But they also reward careful placement with unforgettable beauty. While they can be a bit more demanding than other perennials, their payoff is worth every ounce of effort. Sow the seeds by pressing them gently into moist soil and cover lightly. Give them space to breathe, since good air circulation helps prevent disease. As they grow, you may need to stake their tall spires against the wind. But this small act of care allows their blooms to rise proudly above the rest of your garden. For anyone who loves that blend of refinement and boldness, delphiniums offer the perfect balance. Sowing now ensures next summer's garden will feel timeless, layered with elegance, and absolutely unforgettable. 7. Hardy geranium, the graceful ground cover. Next on our October sowing list is the hardy geranium, often called cranesbill. Don't confuse it with the tender annual geraniums you might see in window boxes. This perennial is a different story altogether. Hardy geraniums are dependable, spreading plants that fill gaps with mounds of soft foliage and charming blooms in shades of pink, purple, blue, and white. When sown in early October, their seeds tuck into the cool soil, resting through the winter and preparing for vigorous growth in spring. By summer, you'll be rewarded with carpets of color that weave gracefully among your other plants. For viewers with small patios, narrow borders, or shaded corners, hardy geraniums are a gift. They don't demand constant maintenance and adapt to sun or partial shade, making them versatile for many garden styles. Once established, they're tough yet elegant, drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, and capable of covering bare ground in a way that suppresses weeds while softening the look of your garden. To sow, scatter the seeds on loosened, well-drained soil and cover them lightly. If you're planting in containers, they thrive just as well. cascading gently over the sides for a soft, natural effect. Hardy geraniums are the type of perennial that quietly works behind the scenes, bringing harmony and continuity to your garden design. By sowing them this October, you're setting yourself up for a season of effortless grace, a living tapestry that will return year after year, proving that sometimes the most modest plants create the most lasting beauty. 8. Penstemon, the hummingbird's favorite. Our next perennial brings both beauty and energy to the garden. Penstemon, often called beard tongue, with its tubular flowers in shades of crimson, violet, lavender, or pale pink, Penstemon adds a sense of movement and vibrancy to borders and rock gardens. When you sow its seeds in early October, you're giving them the natural cold treatment they need to break dormancy. By the time spring rolls around, the seedlings will be ready to grow into strong, resilient plants that bloom generously through summer. Penstemon is a dream for those of you gardening in sunny, well-drained spots. It thrives in lean soils, meaning you don't need to pamper it with rich compost. In fact, too much fertility can weaken the plant, while poor soils often bring out its best performance. For balcony gardeners or those with gravel beds and raised planters, Penstemon is a perfect choice. It stays upright, keeps its shape, and asks for little once it's established. The real joy of Penstemon lies in its relationship with wildlife. Bees love its nectar, but it's the hummingbirds that truly adore it. Watching them dart in and out of the flowers brings life and magic to your outdoor space. Sowing is simple. Press the seeds into the soil surface or cover them lightly and keep the ground moist until germination. Once the plants are up, they'll require minimal care, rewarding you with waves of blooms year after year. By adding Penstemon to your October sowing list, you're not just planting flowers. You're creating a lively stage where pollinators return each season to put on a show. 9. Perennial sunflower. The late summer beacon. As we near the end of our list, let's talk about a perennial that shines brightest when most others are winding down. The perennial sunflower. Unlike the tall annual sunflowers many of us know from childhood, perennial varieties form strong clumps that return year after year, sending up multiple stems topped with golden yellow blooms. When sown in early October, the seeds rest through winter's chill, then emerge in spring with the energy to grow into sturdy plants that light up your garden in late summer and fall. For those of you dreaming of height and drama in your spaces, whether that's along a backyard fence, the edge of a cottage border, or even the corner of a community garden, perennial sunflowers are unmatched. They can grow tall and bold, creating a backdrop that frames smaller plants and pulls the eye upward. And while their blooms are cheerful and bright, they're more than just pretty faces. These flowers attract bees, butterflies, and later in the season, birds that feast on their seeds. Sowing them is straightforward. Scatter seeds in a sunny spot with well-drained soil, cover lightly, and keep the area moist until seedlings appear. Once established, they're hardy, tolerant of summer heat, and surprisingly low maintenance. Imagine walking through your garden at the end of summer when so much has already finished flowering and being greeted by a stand of glowing yellow faces swaying in the breeze. By sowing perennial sunflowers now, you're planting joy for the very season when your garden needs it most. Tenatanan, pincushion flower, the delicate finisher. To complete our October sowing list, let's turn to the pincushion flower, also known as scabiosa. This perennial may be gentle in appearance, but it has a special way of bringing elegance and charm to a garden. Its blooms resemble tiny pincushions, with soft, rounded heads in shades of lavender, pink, and creamy white that dance lightly on slender stems. Sown in early October, the seeds rest through the winter months, and by spring they awaken to grow into plants that bloom steadily through summer. For those of you tending small gardens, balcony containers, or mixed borders, the pincushion flower is a treasure. It stays compact, making it easy to fit into tighter spaces, while its airy flowers add movement and grace. Cut a few for your vase, and you'll notice how long they last indoors, bringing that garden freshness right into your home. Outdoors, bees and butterflies adore them, ensuring that your patch of pincushions will always hum with life. Planting is simple. Scatter seeds over well-drained soil in a sunny spot, press them lightly into place, and water gently. They need good airflow to avoid damping off, but otherwise they ask for very little. Once they're growing, you'll find they bloom again and again, offering a steady supply of delicate flowers when many perennials take a pause. By sowing them this October, you're setting the stage for a garden that feels refined yet effortless, the perfect finishing touch to your perennial collection. It's proof that sometimes the softest beauty leaves the most lasting impression. Part 3. Facing challenges and letting nature guide you. Now that we've explored 10 perennials perfectly suited for October sowing, it's important to pause and talk about the realities every gardener faces. Because let's be honest, no matter how experienced you are, seeds don't always follow our plans. Sometimes they take longer to germinate. Sometimes they disappear into the soil until spring without a trace, and occasionally they simply don't make it. But here's the beauty of October sowing. Nature is doing most of the heavy lifting for October. The cold months provide the stratification seeds need. The soil's natural cycles keep them resting at just the right pace, and by the time warmth returns, you'll see life pushing through the surface almost as if by magic. Still, there are a few simple ways to help nature along. Avoid overwatering, since soggy soil can cause seeds to rot before they even wake up. Protect freshly sown spots with a light mulch to keep birds from stealing seeds or frost from lifting them out of the soil. If you're growing in containers, raise them slightly off the ground to help drainage and prevent winter waterlogging. And remember, patience is key. Some of these perennials won't sprout until the soil tells them it's time, and that might be months away. Think of this stage as a lesson in trust. You've prepared the soil, sown with intention, and now your role shifts from constant work to quiet observation. It's an invitation to slow down with the season, knowing that under the surface, something remarkable is already happening. This is the gardener's rhythm, sowing now, waiting with faith, and welcoming the burst of color when spring finally returns. Part 4, imagining next year's garden today. As we step back from the practical side of sowing, let's take a moment to imagine what all this effort will bring. Picture yourself walking into your garden next spring. The soil you tucked seeds into in October is now alive with fresh green shoots, each one carrying the promise of color and fragrance. By summer, those tiny October gestures transform into bold spires of lupines, cheerful waves of black-eyed Susans, delicate nodding columbines, and carpets of hardy geraniums weaving through the borders. Even if you're tending just a balcony or a few pots, the same magic happens. Suddenly, your space feels fuller, richer, and far more alive than the season before. For many of you, gardening is more than a hobby. It's a form of therapy, a chance to breathe deeply and reconnect with the rhythms of nature. And this is why October sowing is so powerful. It teaches patience, it rewards foresight, and it shows that growth often happens unseen, long before the results appear. These seeds become more than flowers. They become reminders that even during winter's quiet, life is still moving forward beneath the surface. So as you plan your October sowing, don't just think of it as work. Think of it as writing a love letter to your future garden, one that will reply in bursts of color, buzzing pollinators, and a sense of peace when you need it most. This vision is what makes the waiting worthwhile, and it's what will carry us gracefully into the closing of today's guide. Sowing today for tomorrow's beauty. And there you have it, 10 perennials you can sow in early October that will quietly rest through the winter and reward you with unforgettable blooms next year. From the fiery blanket flower to the whimsical columbine, from the bold lupine to the golden glow of black-eyed Susan, each of these plants is a reminder that gardening is as much about trust as it is about action. When you scatter those seeds now, you're not just planting flowers, you're planting hope, patience, and joy for the months to come. Remember, your garden doesn't need to be grand to be meaningful. Even a few pots on a balcony, a strip of soil by the fence, or a container near your front door can transform into a sanctuary when you work with the seasons. October is not the end of your gardening year. It's the quiet beginning of something wonderful. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What perennials will you be sowing this October? Do you already have a favorite, or are you excited to try something new from today's list? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories inspire not just me, but the entire Earthly Delights community. If you enjoyed this guide and want more tips that fit your lifestyle, make sure to hit subscribe and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss a chance to grow with us, season after season. Until next time, keep sowing, keep dreaming, and let your garden remind you that beauty is always just beneath the surface, waiting to bloom.